What do you do when your innie is one buying type and your outie is another? If you've seen the show Severance on Apple TV, you know that there is a world in which one of our personas goes to work every day and the other one comes home, and never the twain shall meet. But they can tend to be very different personalities. So, what if your personality that you are isn't meshing with the buyer persona that is best for you? If you're a four, they're an eight. You're a two, they're a six. Nancy can tell us some of the clashes, but there are clashes that have to do with a perfect match. It's almost like not getting along with your ideal partner in life. Is it better to have that butting of the heads, Nancy, or is it better to have the smooth sailing and synchronicity of a relationship that goes nowhere?
Okay, well, that's an interesting question. And of course, it depends, is the great answer, right? Because there isn't a one size fits all.
Right.
But just before we dive into a deeper conversation, I'll introduce myself and you take the time as well. Dr. Nancy Zier, the sales whisperer. And I make generating leads on LinkedIn easy for that service-based solopreneur who wants to make sales without being pushy, aggressive, and salesy.
And I'm Hirsch Reppoon, a holistic brand therapist. I like to get into the nitty gritty of why you do what you do, how your life and business intersect with one another, and how your message can really, really impact the ability you have to establish yourself with authority and work with the kind of clients you want to work with.
And the reason we've teamed up together is because we believe that sales and messaging are a continuum. It's just the number of people to whom the message is addressed. In marketing, that message tends to be to hundreds, right? Thousands of people. It's a general message that's going out to the public. However, when I say general, it shouldn't be generic. It needs to
Right,
be
right.
specific, right? And sales, of course, is a message that's going usually to a single or a committee, a buyer. And so, hence, that's why we've teamed up together, because it is one message that you're communicating, whether to many or to one. So let's go back to that issue about inner or outer clashes, because her 70% of the population actually has two or more personality styles that they shift between. And as I've always told my clients, beware. There is a social style. It's the style by which we meet and greet and get to know people in general. But that style may not be, in fact, in 70% of the cases, that is not the style in which someone is making a buying decision. And so, as you suggested, and by the way, you gave numbers, and I know you're familiar with the numbers, but maybe the viewer is not. The numbers represent how many contacts someone needs before he or she can make a decision. And so you talked about clashes in which somebody starts off in this very social, comfortable, conversational style, but the decision-making style is drawn out and careful and delayed, and it drives some of us nuts.
Yeah, and to that point, deliberation is obviously taking the time to make the right decision is always important. But I think sometimes we witness and ourselves engage in a kind of extended process whereby we don't need to make a decision. And as the seller of a service, the person offering a solution, we we tend to not want to cross over into being pushy, being salesy, or any of those kind of overly hungry points of view. We want to take a laid back attitude so that the person that we hope to work with can be put at ease. But sometimes we're doing them a disservice by just allowing them an open ended, field to roam in with their thoughts and say, look, I know you like to mull things over. Take your time, think about it. We're going to be here. What does the mind do in those cases, Nancy, when we give them too much room?
Yeah, what you're saying, and it's so true, Hirsch, that people delay a decision and it may not be in their best interest. And it's also true that there is a group of people, they tend to be the number 8 buyers, who, when pressured and pressed and pushed and prodded, they respond by not wanting to do business with you at all, even though you might have been the perfect solution and they even knew it, but because of the pressure, they, retreat. So you have to be able to know that that's true of your buyer so that you don't irritate them and drive them away. On the other hand, you said something very important, which is we could be doing our buyer a disservice when we retreat and when we allow them permission to take all the time in the world. Because the truth is, Hirsch, you and I, our schedules get busy, our priorities change, our businesses morph. And by the way, although I'm speaking about us, viewer, listener, put yourself in these shoes, because it's true for you too. Your business is morphing, you're changing, your priorities are shifting, etc. I mean, new opportunities pop up constantly. One came up today for me, and I'm going to be pursuing it. And in order to do that, Hirsch, I'm going to be pulling energy away from other places. Some of the people who thought I would be available later are going to be surprised that I'm not available anymore. So there
Yeah.
is a truth to this urgency, which is a marketing ploy. In many cases, I will tell you, it is a marketing ploy, and it's a psychology of the fact that when there is scarcity, people tend to act. And all that we're trying to do is get people to act. But as
Yeah.
you're saying, and this is the most important thing for those of us who are heart centered, it isn't to act for the sake of action. It's to act because it's in the best interests of what you're trying to do.
Yeah. I would add to that there are two ways to look at it. There's manufactured scarcity, which means I'm only going to make 10 shirts and they're going to be, numbered 1, 2, 3 of 10, 4 of 10. And that's it. Once they're sold, they're out, and they're going to cost more money because there's so few of them. And so you better get them now. Now, in reality, maybe I've printed 100 of those shirts, and I'm going to, a little bit while later, I'm going to say, listen, we did 10 to 20 now. We numbered them 11 to 20, and now those are a little bit more less because they're not the first 10, but you better watch out because they're going to be gone. When they're gone, they're gone. And so there's that. But then there's also genuine urgency. In other words, you've poured your heart out to me. You told me what you want. Now you say you need to do this, you need to do that, you need time, you need this. And I just want to, for the moment, say a couple of things. Well, number one, what would happen if in the next 6 months we did work together? What do you think, based on what I've said? Not what do I promise you, or what do you think will happen in that next 6 months? And then, let's say we don't, right? We don't work together and I give you all this time and I don't get on your back, where will you be? So the question is, what does the deliberation cost you? Not any other way than let's just deal with what you want and what it costs you
Yeah.
to not move on it.
Yes. You see, this is where a true sense of urgency comes from. What does it cost you not to act? What does it cost you to delay? What does it cost you to pass by this opportunity altogether? There is a real cost. And as you said, Hirsch, if we've done a good job during our initial conversations with our exploratory sessions with a prospect, then there's a good chance that we have, unwrapped and perhaps even massaged and squeezed a little bit the pain points that are obviously disruptive and causing that person discomfort. Otherwise, they wouldn't have reached out to us to begin with. And so, if those are genuine pain points, what's going to happen if you take no action, you delay taking action, or, again, now the solution I offer you is gone because my time and my resources are elsewhere.
Another thing that, and I think all these lessons are very hard won. We've learned these ourselves. I can't speak for you, Nancy, but I know for myself that quite often we will distract ourselves with productivity that we think is really important, but we're just avoiding an uncomfortable confrontation. And that's one way to look at it, which is it's not it's not the commitment itself necessarily that we're afraid of. Because all those objections and all of those things, and that's why I mentioned the thing about looking ahead. If we do this, what happens? Because if they say, well, I don't know if you're going to do that, and I don't believe in this, and I'm worried about that, those are objections. If they say, well, all this good stuff happens, I'm just not ready, or I just have these other things, or I just have, so I think if we're playing that distraction game, it's easier to just say, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to build that, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there, and not confront my fear, not confront the decision. Because one thing I have learned is it is a momentous decision. A lot of the things we're talking about are really transformative. So they're not light, engagements.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm glad you use that word transformative and that these are not light decisions, because that's exactly what's going on in our prospect's mind. And they may be afraid of taking that step that is transformative because it's comfortable, even though it's maybe painful to stay where we are. And so we don't move forward and we don't make those tough decisions. But as you pointed out, and I want to go back to that, what's our obligation as the seller to talk to that buyer, that prospect, and to be, as the name of your book, sell the truth, to actually let someone know what the truth is when they say yes or when they say no or when they delay. And one of the things that is true for me, and again, I'm using my own experience. I'm thinking about several people that I met years ago, and I loved what they did. And I even said to many of them, oh, I know I'm going to sign up for your program in the future. I haven't yet to sign up for their program, and now years have
Yeah.
passed. Okay. And I'm on their email list. So I see the different things that they're doing, and they continue to offer wonderful services. I continue to say to myself, that's a great service. And yet I've moved in a different place now. And now their offer, their service, their approach is somehow I've passed it by and it's passed me by.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that strangers on a train thing. It's that person on the subway that we didn't speak to, and what might have been, except now you're on their email list. and you see everything that's happening. But it's true. And I have a similar one where I said to somebody, I'm going to do your program as soon as I'm ready, as soon as I can. I did that. And I believed in my heart at that moment that I was going to do that program. And then life happens and you're like, okay, well, now I'm not. But the thing is, it isn't that I didn't do the program. It's, am I in this space? Am I here where I wanted to be? Because over here, I was like, I'm going to do your program. I'm going to do your program. I know your program is what I need. I just can't afford it right now. And then we're over here. So I've progressed, but am I where I wanted to be? And
You're in a
now
different place.
I'm in a different place, but
Mm-hmm.
had I done it then, would I have been over here now?
Well, and
And
again, even when I say in a different place, you're assuming it's along that same continuum. and
Right.
whether you would have been farther advanced, more quickly advanced, etc. And I'm thinking it could have even been in a different direction altogether,
Yes.
because that is the nature of life. The two roads less traveled. I took the one less traveled, and that's made all the difference.
Yeah.
And it's a very philosophical message about what road to take. And when you pass by the road, that you didn't take today, can you go back and take it tomorrow? And the answer is often no. We say to ourselves, like you said, yeah, I'm going to do it. And I thought I would do it, and again, with so many prospects, which is why follow up is important. If we don't have a next date for contact, the relationship dwindles and dies. That's the truth.
And as you have done on many occasions, you've segued into a wonderful discussion for next week, which is follow up, which could be follow up, because I feel like that is a place where a lot of us drop the ball.
Oh,
We
for
feel
sure.
like, okay, well, this didn't work out. And now, just pursuant to what we were just saying, they're never going to do it. Now they're never going to, they missed the boat. We missed the boat's gone. Well, maybe we need to have our follow-up game
Yeah.
much tighter. And I
Yeah.
would love to have that be our discussion next week.
We will do it. So we are signing off today. Look forward to our next conversation on follow up. It's Dr. Nancy Zaire, the sales whisperer.
And Hirsch Repun, the holistic brand therapist, wishing you a wonderful weekend, a happy Passover if you're celebrating, and we'll see you next week.